can do, and that's absolutely fine. So if you want to close your eyes to start, then that might be a nice place to feel kind of safe to do that. But always, as always, there is never pressure for anything, either way of doing anything. Morning, Helen. Just letting Helen in. So whether you're sitting or lying or lounging, today is mostly going to be hand and feet work and breath. So if you're needing a slightly different position today, then let yourself have it. Be reclined if you need it. And just start to let yourself land if you can, with a little bit of awareness. And I say that with be very patient with yourself in kind of just getting into the session, especially if you're coming from other activities or if you're bringing with you particularly tricky things today. That's all right, Caroline. No worries, lovely. Thank you for letting me know. So just starting just to maybe have that little check-in with yourself. You don't need to change anything. You don't need to change how you're breathing unless you want to. You don't need to change how your body's positioned unless, of course, you want to. But otherwise, just let yourself be if you can. And that can be a really challenging thing to do if we're dealing with difficult things, physical symptoms, mental symptoms. Just actually letting ourselves be with those things can be really, really tricky. But know that you're in a group that can hold a little bit of that difficulty for you, although we would love to take it away, but we will just hold it and be here for you and with you. Whenever you feel ready, just start to let your breath get just a little bit deeper. You might be breathing through your nose, but if the nose isn't possible, you can let the breath come and go through the mouth. And if it feels good to let your breath out with a sigh, you can go ahead and sigh that breath out. You can make a bit of noise if you wanna. You could, I quite like doing, I don't know what the technical word for it is, but we're gonna just call it horse lips. I quite like horse lips. If you take a breath in and then you go, oh, didn't work very well then. You know, oh, I can't do it now. I'm on the spot. What? That can be quite nice and a bit silly as well, which is.
We do that when we do our singing warm up in choir.
Do you say? Yeah. Oh, so you've got a good horse lips. There you go. But in some way, just letting that exhale out and just really sort of getting down into the chair, getting down into your mattress and just kind of saying, right, I'm here. So obviously today with hands and feet, we're looking at much smaller movements, but also in places like hands and feet, we sometimes forget them and they are often doing a lot and carrying a lot. But as always, we'll do what we can without forcing our body into anything that we know isn't what it needs. And we'll try and do it with sort of slowness and care. So we're going to start. You can keep the eyes closed if you want to. Just bring your hands together and as if you'd come in from the cold, just start to let your hands sort of rub together and create some warmth. You can also do this with a hand on a thigh, if hands together isn't available, or just anywhere, but just somewhere where you can create that sense of friction, of warmth and heat under the palms. And just keep that going. Just keep the breath coming and going. Keep the hands moving a little bit if you can. Lovely. And then just let them stop. Just rest the palms down on your legs or by your side on the bed. Sorry, palms up. Let's go palms upwards if you can. Fizzy little hands, just having a moment to rest. There might be a sense of that little tingle in the fingers on the palm. Might be aware of a change in temperature. Sort of bringing a little bit of blood flow to the hand. And noticing if that any of that residual sensation is more so in the palms, more so in a finger, around the front or the back of your hands. Just get really sort of connected if you can. We're going to look at a couple of mudras being those yogic hand gestures that we sometimes have a little play with. I'm going to come just a little bit closer so that you can see a little bit easier. They're not too complicated because some of them are quite, I struggle to remember. We're going to just alternate between wrapping the thumb over the top of the hands in a soft, gentle fist. So that's our first one. And then we're going to tuck the thumb in and wrap the hands on top. So we've got this one, or we've got this one. This one is Adi Mudra, and this one, thumbs on top, is Mush. I think it's Mushta. I can't talk. Musha. Adi, thumbs tucked in. So we're going to start with the thumbs tucked in just for a minute. So wherever your hands want to lay, if you're sitting, try and have them in your lap or resting on something, just so the arms aren't hanging. So thumbs tucked in, and we're not clenching. We've just got a soft fist to sort of tuck in the thumb in. Palms can turn up, or you can take the palms down. I'm just going to take 3 breaths, fully in and fully out. And then we're going to switch that position of the thumb. So you're going to go at your pace, just taking 3 steady breaths with the thumb tucked in. And then whenever you're ready, just going to let the hands relax. And in between, you might want to give the fingers a wriggle. You might want to stretch the fingers out a little bit before you come and tuck fingers in and thumb on top. And then again, just take 3 in and out breaths, nice and steadily. And we're going to do that one more time with each position of the hands. Again, just really focusing on trying not to clench and squeeze, but trying for that hand position to be quite relaxed once you've made the shape. So you might feel a tendency, because we often think of that fist as being a squeeze. You might have to resist that urge and just let your hands find that position, and then see if you can just let them relax in that position a little bit. Take 3 breaths with the thumb tucked in. And then give your hands a little wriggle, a little stretch, and then tuck the fingers in and pop the thumb on top. And again, just take 3 breaths at your own pace. Well done, everyone. And then when you've taken that third breath, just relax your hands fully. Give them a wriggle, or maybe you want to turn them the opposite way. If they were palms up, you might want to just pop them down for a minute. Beautiful. And we've got another little movement coming up with our hands where we're going to take our hands and spread them. So spread out the fingers and think like a flat palm. You can do this sort of out in front of you, or you can just do it lower. And we're going to then give ourselves like little claws. So if you imagine you're a cat and you're going to put your claws out, you're going to sort of give yourself little claw type hands, and then we're going to move from fingers splayed to claws, just bending the fingers and the thumb if we can. And there might be some fingers that want to bend, and there might be some that don't. That's okay. Just have a little go a couple of times, just feeling that nice sort of stretch through the fingertips, palm of the hand, and then just bring in those claws in. Amazing. Lovely. Couple of times. Nice. Good. And then rest the hands, bringing them down to the lap or by your sides on the bed or sofa, just let them relax. You might also, just as we're moving into the hands and the wrists, want to just have a little move around your shoulders. Just because we're sort of focusing on a smaller part of the body doesn't mean that there isn't stuff that's involved going up the arm. So kind of just letting yourself have a little wriggle in between. Amazing. We're going to just take a little nice hand massage. We're going to take our right hand and we're just going to place our thumb sort of along the outside edge of that hand where it's quite fleshy. We're not going to push really hard. We're not going to knead, but we're just going to kind of give this outer edge of that hand a little rub. I kind of just go up and down, but you could go sort of little presses. We're not going up as far as the first knuckle. We don't want to push onto the bone, but we're just in that nice fleshy part of the hand. And just giving yourself like a little gentle massage, just for a couple of breaths. And then you can do the same just on the opposite side of the hand, that nice fleshy part underneath the thumb. You can just take your right thumb and give that a little bit of love. So just letting you try not to hold your breath. Not applying a huge amount of pressure. Trying to find just a sensation that feels quite pleasant. Beautiful, amazing. And then just popping that right hand down and just taking that hand forward as though you're stopping traffic. So we're going to bend at the wrist here, and then we're going to just take that hand down. So just be mindful. My wrists are very happy to go woo. So if I'm holding, I'm trying to think about maybe not bringing it back all the way, as in it's pointing straight up. I'm just going to go sort of like keep it at a diagonal in both movements. And we sometimes see people holding on here in some classes and pulling back, and I don't love that so much because, again, I just think it's a bit like holding on to a joint and then just giving it a yank or a push. And then what you might just do to finish that side off is to take a really gentle circle of the wrist a couple of times in both directions. Again, try and keep the circle of that wrist quite small, especially if the joint of the wrist is one that is a bit loosey-goosey and happy to do big movements. We're going to keep it just a little bit smaller. Beautiful. And just resting that one down. Amazing. We're just going to switch sides. So we're going to take the left hand over to the outer edge of that right hand. And we're going to take the thumb to that fleshy outer edge of the palm and start just to have a little massage. Amazing. And just seeing as if you can, just bringing really smooth, maybe a bit of a slower breath in, a slower breath out. If your body feels like it wants to sigh, let it sigh. If you feel like you get the yawns, you can yawn as much as you like. I won't be offended. I think teaching yoga is the best thing to do to learn not to be offended by people yawning. I'm always like, yeah, it's working, they're yawning. And you can take the thumb over to that fleshy part on the opposite side of the hand, right underneath the thumb. Like the bit that you would, they always say that if you cook steak, it has to feel like that, right? I think. Have a little feel around. Nice little hand massage. And then when you're ready, you can just take a couple of times, taking that palm forward, like you're saying stop, and then palm down. Again, just to remind you, we don't have to be looking for a vertical angle. We can take it a little bit smaller, just flexing at the wrist in both directions, just a couple of times. And then having a little circle of that wrist if you want to, one way and then the other. All of these things, if you've got long days where you're typing or like you're doing one position with your hands, this would be a really nice one to come back to, or at least just grab a couple of bits from it and then have a little rest. Beautiful. You're doing okay. You just all look like you're casting spells from my end. Oh. Or orchestrating, you know. Okay, so lying down or sitting, we're just going to give a little bit of love to our feet. If you want to change positions, go ahead. It's all good. So Caroline Zen, amazing. Yeah, you're a very Zen orchestra. So obviously, if you're sitting, your feet are going to be flat on the floor to start. If you're not, they're going to be, maybe they're flat on the bed or floor if you've got your legs bent, or if you've got your legs outstretched, then your feet are sort of going to be sort of half flexed but fairly relaxed. So our starting position might be different, but it really doesn't matter so much where we're starting from. Wherever your feet are, just for a moment, like let yourself feel the texture underneath your feet, and just have a little go at seeing how much of the bottoms of your feet you can feel against whatever they're sitting on. So I just noticed, for instance, that in this position with my bum in a chair, there is like, I can really tell that my heels are on the ground, but there's not sort of much going on between my head and my toes. So I'm just going to try and sort of give my toes a little wriggle. I'm going to try and pick them up and put them down again, just so that I'm sort of as aware of the floor under my toes as I am underneath my heels.
My feet keep going into like wanting to cramp every time I'm moving them, but that's because I think my legs, everything's really tight at the moment, like my legs, my feet.
It's in tight, yeah. And then we're just going to take the feet, again, maybe if you're on your bed, just bending your knees so that your feet are flat on the floor. You're just going to see how it feels to sort of go heel toe, and just take your feet a bit wider than they are. So sort of like you're sort of heel toeing your feet a little wider out. You don't have to go crazy super wide. You'll just sort of open, and then you're going to just take them in, heels, toes. So sort of going in and out. And if that in out isn't serving you, you might just keep the feet in the position that they're in and gently lift the toes, keep the heels down, and then lift the heels, keep the toes down. So you can keep the feet stationary, but just pick up toes, pick up heels. So up to you, make it smaller if you want, or just keep the body where it is, but have that sense of imagined movement of how it would feel to heel toe your feet out, or pick up certain parts of your feet and place them down again. Good, I'm going to do that one more because I was talking a lot through that one. So we're also getting, and if you're moving the feet out, a nice really gentle movement of that hip. The femur bone, the thigh bone in the hip socket as the hips open. So there's a little bit of movement there as well. Next time you come back, just let the feet land again, more neutral, roughly hip distance apart. Let the feet rest fully on the ground. Amazing. And then you can do this with your feet staying on the ground, or if you prefer to lift a leg, if you're on the chair, you can. Obviously, if we lift the leg, it's going to be a bit harder for our leg to keep the leg up. So it's up to you. I'm going to lift it just so you can see a little bit better what's going to happen. We're going to move, we're going to flex the foot, and then we're going to scrunch the toes. We're going to flex the foot, and then we're going to scrunch the toes. So if this movement is giving you cramp, try first of all just with one of them. I would say don't scrunch the toes if you've got crampy feet today. See how it feels just to do a gentle flex of the foot and then come back to foot relaxed. But if your feet are quite happy today, then you can go flex, scrunch, flex, and scrunch. We're only going to do a few times and then have a little rest because the feet are made up of lots of very, very tiny little muscles and they might tire quickly. So just give that one a little feel and see how it is. And then rest it down. This one might be a little bit harder to do if your feet are connected to the floor, but you can absolutely do a version of it. So we're either going to lift the leg gently and just circle the ankle in one direction. Try and keep the foot and the toes just sort of fairly relaxed. So they're not scrunched, but they're also not flexed, sort of somewhere in between. Or you can keep the foot on the floor, pick up the heel and just do that circular motion. I remember doing this one specifically at the beginning of PE at school. I don't know why, but this movement is so PE coded, weird. And if you are circling, just make sure you're going in both directions. So just change direction. Just giving that ankle a little bit of moving and then resting it all the way back down. Beautiful. Amazing. We're going to switch sides. Other foot. So we'll start off again. So you've got that flex and that scrunch of your toes. Just like our fists earlier, even when we scrunch our toes, we're not going to really squeeze them. So we're going to flex the foot and then we're going to scrunch the toes, but keep away from that real big intense squeeze. You can do that with the foot on the ground, pulling the toes and the foot back up towards you. Or you can extend the leg out in front of you if you're sitting in your chair and have a little go holding that leg. Obviously your thighs are going to work just that little bit harder there. So see how you feel. You can always take the toe scrunch away if you want to and just be flexing. So really try and be led by the feedback that you're getting from your feet. What feels good, what doesn't feel good, and then sort of adapting it as accordingly as we can. Also brings that awareness sort of all the way up the back of that lower leg. When we flex the foot, we're aware of maybe the calf, maybe even up into the back of the hamstring. Give that foot a little rest, popping it down, allowing the muscles of your feet just to be soft and as relaxed as you can. You got it. And then again, whether that foot stays, the ball of the foot stays grounded or bedded, or you want to pick that leg up again in a minute, we're just going to allow that ankle a little bit of a circle in both directions. So when you're ready, just have a little circle. In the air, keep that ball of the foot down, lifting the heel, just allowing that circle around. Fabulous. And then having a little rest of the feet whenever you're ready. Fabulous. So we did this nice kind of hand warm up. I'm going to call it a hand warm up because it feels like warming up. We did that at the beginning. If you're on your floor, if your feet are on the floor, it's obviously, I don't really want us to be trying to bring the feet up so that we can give them a little bit of hands on. But if you are on the floor and you want to just kind of, this is quite, you might go 1 foot at a time, just sort of brushing your foot front to back along the carpet. You could do this in the bed as well, but it might just feel a bit different. So just kind of, so the same sort of movement is happening on the bottom of the foot. It's almost like you're giving your foot a little brush against your carpet or your bed. It might feel really tickly, in which case if you don't like it, don't do it. I really like this sensation, but I know it's kind of, it could be either or, it could be either way. Take it on both feet if you liked it on 1 foot, have a go on the other foot and just a couple of times forward and back. Really like movements like this for the fascia and the bottoms of the feet. So anything that's kind of like bringing a little bit of movement, but almost like a sort of a sliding movement across the top of the fascia, the connective tissue, is really good for it. It helps it get lubricated and it helps it become a bit less dry and crunchy. And if you're a real, if you like sensations in your feet, if you've got one of those, you know, like the doormats that are like sort of, they feel a bit, they're a bit brushy, they're a bit firm. You can do that along the feet on a brushy doormat. And again, it might feel really nice. It might feel terrible. It depends if you like sensations in your feet. But if you like it, it's quite a nice one to try if you've got a firmer, like a bit spikier doormat. But yeah, that will do for now. Just giving them a little kind of little brush along the floor. Amazing. And then just maybe coming back to close your eyes. Pop your hands in your lap or on your tummy or down by your side. Allow your feet to, again, just finding sort of an equal level of toes, heels, maybe the outside edges and the inside edges of your feet. You can sort of try and connect them to the floor or your bed a little bit equally. Just landing your body in a position that doesn't require, or that requires as little effort as is possible, wherever that is for you. Might be different to where I am. If you want to come back to one of those 2 gentle mudras, the hand positions from the beginning, you can. So maybe you tuck the thumb underneath the fingers, wrap them gently around, Adi Mudra. Maybe you tuck the fingers in, pop the thumb on top, still keeping the hands rested and supported. Or you can explore one more just for a final sort of 5 or 6 breaths, interlacing your fingers. Almost like you're making a little basket with your hands, and then placing that on your chest or just gently on your belly. Quite like this hand position. It feels very protective. Because it feels as soon as we interlace the fingers, it makes the hands stronger in some way, like we're sort of bringing the two together and creating this sort of protective little shield. And then once that hands are resting on the body, you can almost imagine that you're trying to breathe into that sort of soft, curved inside shape of both the hands. And if this needs to be a visual for self protection, or maybe boundaries, or maybe it represents just some sort of version of protecting or caring for yourself, maybe you can just take the last couple of breaths in this position, just really letting that intention into your whole body, your whole being. Kind of like it, this sort of feeling of, yeah, I do know best. I know best. Like no one else does. But when it comes to like what you need, sort of this sense of being sure, being confident, and being strong in the sense of caring for yourself, however that is, and whatever it looks like. We'll take a final deep breath in together, maybe the deepest breath you've taken all day. You might just give it a little pause at the top, and then when you're ready, just let that breath go, let the hands relax, release everything. And if you miss that first deep breath, you can do it one more time. Deep breath in. Maybe a little hold for a second at the top, and then let the breath go. If you've had your eyes closed for a lot of today, just start to let them blink open. And just being aware that your body's maybe been in one position for a little while, just start to let the rest of your body have a little bit of moving, have a little sway, have a little gentle kind of wriggle, seated or on your bed. Or of course, if you're feeling really relaxed and you're comfortable and you've got time to stay and chill for a little bit longer, then you can always stay and have a little bit of a longer chill.